Hi. Welcome to That's Good Broncos. I am Brandon Perna, Dirtbag NFL host anchor dude, and today I'm predicting the Broncos versus Chiefs round 2. Let's get to it. The Broncos return to the Mile High City to face a dangerous, 3-5 Kansas City Chiefs team. The first 3 losses of the season for the Chiefs came against the Broncos, Packers, and Bengals. 3 teams that started the season 6-0. They've also lost to the Bears, who have beaten every team in the AFC West, except the Broncos, who they will play next week in Chi-Town. But, as is tradition on this heavily underrated show, I will start the Broncos with a half point for home field advantage. Gary Kubiak versus Andy Reid. Right now, with the 7-1 record, I'm going to give Gary Kubiak a small 0.25 advantage. I'd do a half point, but the Chiefs had an additional week to prepare for the Broncos. Peyton Manning versus Alex Smith. Manning is the better quarterback, hands down, but Alex Smith is playing better than Peyton Manning this year. His worst game by far this season was Week 2 against the Broncos. Nasty defense. Smith only has 3 interceptions on the year. That's 10 less than Manning, and they've both thrown 9 touchdowns. Manning will be facing just as big of a challenge as Smith against a disgustingly good Chiefs defense. The difference is Smith can move. He rushed for 78 yards against the Lions on November 1st. So, half point here for Alex Smith. And Manning, I want you to make me look like an idiot. Outperform Smith, throw 0 interceptions, and light it up. Running backs versus running backs. Denver, of course, has Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson. The Chiefs, after losing Jamal Charles for the season, have moved Charcandrick West into the starting position with Niall Davis still as a backup. West is coming off of 2 solid outings against the Steelers and Lions with touchdowns in both games, and he hovered right around 100 on the ground. I think West will have moderate success against the Broncos, but his weakness, and this is a big one against Denver, is in pass protection, which is almost a death sentence for Alex Smith. I'm giving the Chiefs a half-point advantage here, especially with Alex Smith's underrated legs. Them yams is nice. And post-football, he has a real chance at becoming the world's top pantyhose model. Chiefs receivers versus Broncos secondary. The Broncos could have run away with this one had Aqib Talib not been suspended for his attempt to detach Dwayne Allen's retina, a la Demolition Man. Fortunately for Denver, they are facing Jeremy Maclin, Albert Wilson, Jason Avant, DeAnthony Thomas, and Chris Conley. I listed 5 receivers because outside of Maclin, none of those guys are boner-crushing elite receivers that leave you feeling inept at the end of the day. Maclin is by far the most targeted receiver in the group. I'll predict Albert Wilson catches 0 or 3 passes and nothing in between. This season, he has only caught 3 passes or 0 passes in all of his games. I will say that Wilson and Avant do the dirty work very well and are strong run-blocking receivers. I believe Harrison Roby can contain Maclin the same way Randall Cobb was contained. My concern is how Webster will perform taking over for Aqib Talib. Kayvon is an average corner, and I expect average play from him against the Chiefs' below-average receivers. He does bring physicality to the field like Talib, but the Broncos are going to need Darian Stewart to continue to play very well in pass coverage. TJ Ward put a beat down on the Colts, and I believe he will continue his pursuit to destroy all football humans against Kansas City, but this time his jersey will be in compliance with the NFL uniform rules. Sorry ladies, no midriff this week. With an average receiving group facing a secondary missing their best player, I'm calling this matchup a wash. Broncos offensive line versus Chiefs front 7. I really believe this is where the game will be won or lost for the Denver Broncos, and I'll say this right now. Does not look good for Denver. The Chiefs' strength is their defensive front 7. They have Tamba Hali. Well, maybe. He's dealing with a knee injury. Alan Bailey, Dontari Poe, Jay Howard, Justin Houston, Josh Malga, and Derrick Johnson. Those names don't scare you. Check your pulse, because you might be fucking dead. As usual, outside of Evan Mathis, this Broncos offensive line sucked last week. Luis Vasquez continues to struggle with the back injury, and for an offensive lineman, that's one of the worst places to be hurt. I'd sit him and start Max Garcia until Luis is healthy. Kubiak believes these guys can get better and that their mistakes were communication problems. I hope to God he's right, because their challenge this week will be significantly more difficult. As casual football fans, you should know Houston, Hali, and Johnson are all defensive studs, but the guys the Broncos must contain, in addition to them, is Jay Howard and Mike DeVito in rotation. These guys are excellent run stuffers who could shut down the Broncos' running game. If I'm Peyton Manning, I'm paying close attention to inside linebacker Josh Mauga, who's having an excellent season in pass coverage. We know linebackers have been Manning's biggest foe in the passing game. If I could give Kansas City 2 points here, I would. But they're going to get the maximum 1 point advantage. Chiefs offensive line versus Broncos shining 7. The Kansas City offensive line isn't great. In fact, they are barely good. Another word for that is average. Sadly, that means they're still better than the Broncos O-line. Alex Smith does not get rid of the ball as quickly as Peyton Manning, and when that characteristic combines with below average pass protection, you end up with a quarterback who's been sacked 28 times in 8 games. If my math is correct, that's a lot per game. Demarcus Ware will not play, but we know Shaquille Barrett is a force to be reckoned with. I'd fully expect Denver's front 7 to bring continuous pressure on Alex Smith. Barrett will be facing off against Eric Fisher, who until the last 2 games has not played very well. Von Miller will be attacking the Chiefs' best offensive lineman, right tackle Jeff Allen, who didn't start playing until week 6. The Chiefs' weak link is at right guard, and that's Duvernay Tardif, whose name sounds like he should be the CEO of a skincare company. Fancy boy Tardif will be facing the animal Derek Wolfe. That's a matchup I think Wolfe will win. And if the Chiefs want to run the ball effectively, they're going to go in the opposite direction towards Malik Jackson. And that's not much better. Like the Broncos, the Chiefs have a rookie center, and maybe Sylvester Williams can return to his early season form against the rookie, as Williams has been a non-factor recently. I'm still high on Danny Trevathan, the QB killer, and Brandon Marshall. And just like the Chiefs front 7, I'm giving the Broncos a full point advantage here. Broncos receivers versus Chiefs secondary. In their first meeting, I said the Chiefs' weakness would be their corners. But then their rookie, Marcus Peters, made me look like a damn idiot with his 55-yard pick 6. Looking at Peters' body of work for this entire season, his best game came against the Broncos. Now, I'm not going to say the Chiefs' corners are a weakness because I learned from my mistakes, unlike Roger Goodell, but they're hovering around the average area. On the other side of Peters is Ron Parker in the nickel and Sean Smith. What makes the Chiefs' secondary dangerous is the play from their safety positions. Their corners don't need to be great because both Eric Berry and Hussein Abdullah can cover like corners. Essentially, the Chiefs have 2 guys on the back end that do everything well, including stop the run. Emmanuel Sanders is and has been banged up all year long. He went from a hamstring injury to an AC joint in the shoulder injury to an ankle injury. The Broncos want success. Demarcus Thomas will have to dominate like he did against the Packers. And Benny Fowler, you got to step up and be Manning's security blanket. I expect DT to have a big game, but right now against those safeties with an ailing Sanders, I'm going to give the Chiefs a slight edge. Slight, 0.25 points. Tight ends versus tight ends. This is the secret ingredient for a Broncos win, at least in my underdeveloped brain. After week 1, Travis Kelce looked like he was going to finish the season as a top 5 tight end, but he's been battling through some injuries and currently is tied with Owen Daniels in touchdown production at 3 on the season. I expect Kelce to be fully healthy coming off a bye week and to contribute significantly in the passing game. Kelce is not a blocking tight end, but the super Irish James O'Shaughnessy takes care of the dirty work for the Chiefs and can sneak out for a reception or 2 every now and then. I expect a double dose of the V's this weekend, and that has nothing to do with my sex life. I'm talking Virgil Green and Vernon Davis. Verge and Vern. 2 talented, athletic tight ends who must do their job underneath and in crossing routes to soften the Chiefs' defense. Usually, V's harden things, but two V's can be intimidating, which causes involuntary softening. And when that happens, it's game over. And my gut is telling me to pick the V squad. So here's a half point for the Broncos. Don't disappoint me, Vernon and Virgil. Special teams versus special teams. The Broncos now have a threat in the return game with the emergence of Omar's coming Bolden. That's a Wire reference, not a sexual one. This will affect the Chiefs' punting game, but if anyone can handle the task, it's Dustin Colquitt. He's like Peyton, and Britton Colquitt is like Eli. McManus is still tops in my book. Cairo Santos, not a bad kicker either. But at home, I'm going to give the Broncos a slight edge in this department with a .25 advantage because of you, Omar Bolden. So, return another kick is what I'm saying. And your grand total is 2.5 for the Broncos and 2.25 for the Chiefs. It's close. I'll be honest, I'm worried about this game. More so than I was the Colts game, and look how that turned out. Also, Peyton Manning has plantar fasciitis. Fasciitis? Fasciitis? I don't know. It's a foot injury that causes stabbing pain in the heel. And it's not going to get better anytime soon, so just add it to the list of shit Peyton Manning has to deal with on a daily basis. I expect Peyton Manning will play. All I ask is that Peyton, you keep the ball in Denver's hands, and if you do that, you're going to walk away victoriously 24-20, or by some small margin. Predicting these numbers doesn't matter. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Broncos. Make sure you subscribe here for all of your YouTube Broncos needs. Give me a follow on Twitter. I know I say that every episode, but I have way more YouTube subscribers than I do Twitter followers, so there's a handful of you who aren't fucking listening to me. And I don't like that.
You like that? You like that?
And I don't like that.